Welcome to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional, and I am here today to talk about the business of cannabis and what we're doing out throughout the world, actually, in the United States, and most notably in the state of Washington on cannabis to help develop the industry to make it a more profitable, viable opportunity for individuals and for companies, cities, states, and counties, and so forth, to bring in tax dollars and to be profitable and, well, to do the right thing, mainstream this new industry and help people to understand what's going on in an industry that, well, has a lot of mystery going on. And, well, you know, I've been doing this thing for a couple of months now, and I've really enjoyed what I'm doing. And what I really like to do before I get going on anything is to talk about our veterans. Every time that we are out and about and we're looking for, well, a place to spend our money, think about our veteran-owned business. If you don't know where you can find a veteran-owned business, you can go to the Department of Veterans Affairs and Google that real quickly. They have a complete list of all the veteran-owned businesses throughout the state of Washington, which are certified. Right there, Department of Veterans Affairs, I think it's dva.wa.gov, and you can search on anything, whether you need your car fixed, your lawn mowed, or whether you want to shop for groceries. There's a veteran-owned business out there somewhere to help you out. And speaking of veterans, if you are an employer, whether you're in the cannabis industry or not, you are thinking about building your business a little bit more, a little bit better, and making sure that it's more profitable and more viable. If you're doing that and you're thinking, hey, what kind of employee do I need to hire? Well, think about our nation's veterans. They're amazing individuals because they've been doing quite a bit of things to, well, make themselves more viable in the marketplace. And one of those things is they have been learning how to get stuff done in a very concise manner. They don't get a lot of tools or anything. They just get the objective and say, go get this thing done. They work independently. They have a lot of integrity. They're accountable. They're pretty fair in what they do. You can rely on them and you can put your trust in them, and they will represent your business the way that you want the public to see your business. So hire our nation's veterans when you are thinking about hiring anyone to support your business and help you grow. So, hey, today, we are talking today. We're, in the city of Tacoma, and lots of things going on out here. We cover areas from Tacoma, Colorado, California, and so forth with regards to cannabis. But locally speaking, we have been having the implementation of the I-502 stores, meaning the Initiative 502, and talking about cannabis retail operations and how they are getting implemented throughout the jurisdictions in the area. Most recently, in the city of Tacoma, what we've been doing is we've implemented a few of the stores already, and now we put a moratorium on, and, the mayor, Strickland, was here a while back and talked about that moratorium and why it was on for the additional stores. And that's kind of the transition between the medical stores, which were the medical people that were out there operating without a liquor cannabis board license, and those coming into a licensed liquor cannabis board institution. Excuse me. Anyway, those individuals are now getting ready to operate, and the city of Tacoma said, well, hey, let's figure out how we're going to do that. So today we're going to be talking to Marty Campbell, City of Tacoma Councilman, about managing the implementation of retail, recreational, and medical marijuana in Tacoma. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back after these short messages, and Marty and I will get into a whole lot of questions about where we're going from here and what we're doing there. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis, and we'll be right back.
Thanks to our friends at Zookin.com, your local strain directory for the cannabis connoisseur. That's Zooken.com, Zookin.com. Find your strain.
AimBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at aimbiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to aimbiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Swatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome back to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis. Thanks again for joining us. We are here today with Marty Campbell, Tacoma City Councilman. Thanks, Marty, for joining us.
Gotcha.
You got me. Got with the frog in your throat, man.
Daryl, thank you very much for having me today, and thank you in that great opening, all you do for veterans. We really appreciate that.
Oh, I think that our veterans are going to be, well, they've got opportunity here. The industry, not to jump right in, but one of the things we want to talk about is economic development and economic growth and opportunity and, well, cash flow. Everybody's talking about cash flow. You're a former businessman. I mean, you've had, a couple of different businesses.
Yes, I had a video store, Stadium Video, and I used to have a record store in downtown Tacoma, CD store, Buzzard CDs.
So you know a little bit about retail.
I do.
Retail is not the easiest thing on the planet to be involved with, is it?
As I said, I used to have.
Let's talk about...
But that was technology pretty well took that out. But retailing is hard.
Before VCRs and DVDs and, streaming took over, that was all a very viable opportunity.
Absolutely.
But
it was a great thing, great business to get into in the early 90s, yes.
Yes, and then all of a sudden, whoa, thank you very much for streaming technology. But anyway, that said, you do understand the importance of what location in retail and those kinds of things, and what happens in a retail environment, because it's not just your average thing. Margins are low, and traffic's got to be high, and there's a lot of things that take into having a profitable retail business.
Yes, and employees, and scheduling and retail presence. A lot more than a lot of people think go into retailing.
Oh yes, and when you're talking about just all the business planning that you have to do and so forth. But with that said, how many stores are currently operating in Tacoma which are licensed by the Liquor Cannabis Board? Do we have for marijuana recreational marijuana at this point in time?
So currently coming down from the LCB, we have a cap of 8, which means we have 9 stores operating in the city. So I'm not exactly. They said they were going to give us 8, then they licensed 9.
Yeah, I think there was. I heard something on the council meeting the other night where another guy made some kind of
an appeal, and I should have been in, and I wasn't. So
and they said
LCB just said go ahead, because I think they knew down the road they're going to authorize more. What they've done is they're going to authorize up to 16.
Okay, that's the current thing right now, up to 16. So
there's 9 operating, and soon there will be another 7 coming online.
Okay, and that's as a result of the closure of the medicinal marijuana operations that are out there right now, dispensaries.
Right. So they're moving away from the medical marijuana, the unlicensed, and what they're allowing is the medical endorsements for the retailers.
Okay, now when we talk about the dispensaries and so forth, for those people that don't really know what's going on and our listening audience that wants to get up to speed, those individuals, they took advantage of an opportunity quite some time ago when we legalized medical marijuana, and they opened up a shop. Whether they probably got just a general business license or something like that, opened up, and then they started as a nonprofit or however. They were popping up, and whether they were in whatever jurisdictions, they were starting to treat medical patients with marijuana.
Right, and you'd have to get what was the green card, as they called it, which was the medical authorization to go in, and then if you were an authorized user, you could go to the medical dispensary. Now, they never got a license through us because as a city, we never licensed them because with it being federally illegal, we couldn't ask our employees to process a license on something that would violate an oath of office or oath of job. of
Okay.
I won't violate any laws.
Okay, so but they're operating, and so how does that happen?
Well, and the council stepped back and said, there is a large segment of our population that uses marijuana medicinally, and in using it medicinally, they need the access, and we want to make it safe. We don't want people who need it for chronic pain to be meeting someone in a parking lot. We want to make sure that they have safe access, affordable, and something they can count on. And so we said, well, until the state really figures out what they're going to do, 502 was on the horizon. We kind of took a laissez-faire approach of, we understand there's a role for this in society. Let's let it play out.
Now, so they didn't get a business license, though. They just started operating.
Right, but they could work through the state,
Okay,
and begin paying taxes and begin paying. So
now do they pay taxes, or do they? Or are there some that do, some that don't? How's that work?
yes,
Okay, some that do, some that don't. How
Right.
many are we talking about? What's the number that we would say in the city of Tacoma? Not going, because I'm sure there's quite a bit, but what kind of number are we talking about?
well, I think last fall we had that the city employees had identified at least 60,
Okay,
possibly more.
okay.
And this is when you start to see the retail come in.
Okay.
Well, with the medical endorsement coming online and the ability to actually, because right now the retail
And
stores.
when you say the medical endorsement, we're talking about the medical endorsement of the Liquor Cannabis Board, and the retail recreational shops are getting a medical endorsement to sell medically, right?
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Because currently, it's my understanding that the retail shops can't even discuss medical aspects of cannabis.
Right.
Whether or
That's a
not
true
there,
statement.
whether or not there's any pain relief, anything you may see, they're just like, we won't even discuss it with you. Come July 1st, that comes off.
So that comes off, and then those people that have applied for the opportunity to be a medically licensed recreational shop as well can dispense that advice, but there's going to be some kind of a certification process or whatever that says you have some credentials that allow you to do that.
That's my understanding. And more importantly, what it'll allow them to do is take that card that they got from their doctor or whoever prescribed the medical card, and to go in there and get low THC, high CBD products that will help them with pain management or whatever ailment that they're using this for relief.
Now, I understand the state is actually making their own card available as well, so that they will be, if to get the medical endorsement, will require that you go through a state sponsorship, meaning your physician will have to make sure that they're licensed with the state to be able to do that, and so on and so forth. They have certain residency requirements, and we've talked about this on another show. And and then your name gets into a system. So the current, bring in yourself $50 for a green card, no questions asked, is going to go away.
Right. And what we saw was a lot of abuse in that system. I remember at one point we had someone come in and testify before the city council, and he said, we have 6,000 patients. Well, if we have 60 stores with 6,000 patients each, that's 360,000 sick individuals in a city of 200,000.
Boy, we got a lot of that.
Yeah.
We're over the top, man, on that one. Yeah, I can see where there might be concern.
Yeah.
Just a tad.
Yeah, so we knew that there were abuses within the system. Obviously, we still wanted to maintain safe and consistent access for those who needed it most, for those who needed access. So that's why we were willing to let the state kind of get their act together. And well, I don't know if they got their act together yet, but they have rules that they're coming out with.
So we have 60 of those right now. 60?
Well, we had 60 last fall.
Okay, and then we shut down a few, right?
We sent out a letter to all of them that saying, hey, come next July 1st, we're going in behind the Liquor Control Board. We recommend that you apply. We're going to begin enforcement on that. And at that time, we could have began enforcement and shut them all down last fall.
Right.
Well, what good was that going to do if you were working with a
patient
and they couldn't do anything till next July?
Yeah,
could
that
they
gives
get
them
access? And so we said, well, we don't want to close this window completely. But we sent out these letters and said, look, if you're the ones who've been trying to pay state taxes, you've been, or working with
you're
the state,
licensed and you've been around for a while,
right?
And so
You're
forth.
operating professionally. We're going to work with you to give you time to apply and perhaps get the retail.
Okay,
store.
so hopefully be one of the individuals that were
Right.
the quote unquote first priority.
Right. Well, upon us sending out the letters, a certain amount appealed. About half of them shut down because they knew there's no way in heck, by the way they were operating, that they were going to ever qualify for a license. They weren't going to
and
pass
it
the
could have been
background
just-
checks. They weren't going to pass, a
Or
lot
it
of
could
them
have been they
closed
were
down.
just not operating as long as necessary to meet those requirements, and so they went, well, that's not going to work for me.
In some cases, that too. Yeah, but
Okay.
there were some, particularly towards right before we did that were opening up that had no intent of medical. I mean, it wasn't about medical for them. It was about
So the bad actors in there were just going out and just saying, hey, let's go print some money real quick.
Yep. And a lot of them closed up real quick. And what we're down to is, I understand, less than 30 of the medical ones left. And
So we have 30 of the medical ones, and how many of the recreational?
9.
So 9. So basically about 39 shops throughout the city of Tacoma.
Right.
Currently, and that's going to go down to 16. So, but we have to. You put a pause on when the other 6 or 7 were actually added. There was a pause, and that was for reasons of location.
Right.
So tell us a little bit about that.
So we wanted to go back through, and because all the rules we set up before were for medical endorsement or for medical operations, retail operations, they're bigger. They move a lot more people through them. Anyone can come and go. So their impacts are a little bit different than what you would think for a medical place. So we wanted to send that through our planning commission, have our staff look at it, and see what they recommend as to how these fit into the fabric of our community. Where should they be at? Should they be on any corner? Should they only be in retail business districts? What are sensitive uses they should be away from? Something maybe unique to this is we didn't think if someone's operating a drug rehab facility, we shouldn't
Right.
allow them to open up across the street. Now, on some other sensitive use issue, that may not be a barrier. So what was unique to this product that would say we don't want it near what items? And so standard things, churches, schools, daycares, parks, disbursement away from them was something that came up. And then the real big...
The disbursement meaning, hey, how close proximity to each other?
Right. And the state has already put some guidelines on that. In some cases, it's a...
1,000-foot buffer?
Yeah, 1,000-foot buffer. In other places, it's a little bit less. And so we can then adjust those locally. In some cases, we can make it more. We can look at a variety of stuff.
Do we have anybody that's out of compliance at this point in time?
We have one that is 975 feet from a parking lot of a park, which would put them within the 1,000 feet of the park.
So if you add the park and you take the parking lot off and add that, then
Right.
you actually go to the edge of the park.
Right, but the parking lot is technically part of the
yeah,
park.
I get that.
So they're out of compliance. You have to look at
Look at opportunity for variance and things
Right.
like that.
The other thing that came up in the discussion between the Planning Commission and staff recommendation is disbursement, clustering. Do we want to create a green mile? Do we want something where do we put all 16 onto one strip and say, your only place you're going to be allowed is between street, 1st Street and 12th Street, and that's it, and you're all going to be in this one little area?
Well, that's a complicated thing,
Or do
given-
you want it across the whole city?
Well, given where you are and who you are and what you've done, wouldn't you say that the market has an opportunity to help weed that one out? Let's take a look at what the market is right now, not just for cannabis, but hey, let's go out and get a drink, get a beer. I mean, if I want to go get a beer, which is ostensibly another recreational thing, and it's an alcohol, it's a drug. But if I want to go get a beer and I'm over the age and I can do that, there's a lot of opportunities throughout the entire city, and more than 100, I'm sure.
Yes.
And that's where I can sit down and actually use it. But I'm talking about just those places where I can go buy it and walk home and take it home, where I'm not really using it. I'm just going in, buying it, and I'm walking home, and then I'm using it at home, because really what we're getting to is the recreational stores that we're talking about, whether they be medicinal or recreational. There's not any use happening on the property. It's actually walking in, getting something, and taking it home to your humble abode, and then taking advantage of it or wherever within the city and under the guidelines, but not on that specific location. It's just for sale in that location. So that makes it a green mile or whatever. And the market doesn't the market kind of go location, and if you have a bad one, you're gonna want to go, oh, should I move?
Yeah. We can look at the market, but let's go back to the last model we had similar to this, which were the state-controlled liquor stores.
Right.
And what they did there was they put them in. You'll have one here, and they didn't put them next to each other.
Right, but we
They
don't
put
have
'em-
those anymore.
They put them throughout the city. But this is kind of following that model. But you've got retailers who, there's already two of them within 1,000 feet of each other on 6th Avenue.
Right.
And there's two more that are medical ones that want to become retailers that are on 6th Avenue.
Okay, now
So then you'd be looking at 3 to 4 on 6th Avenue.
But if the market can support that, no differently than if the market can support the other, wouldn't an entrepreneur go, well, hey, you're going to tell me where I can and can't be profitable with my investment, and that's if I'm doing within their laws and giving you the bounds and all those kinds of things. Concentration versus use, and again, we're not using it anywhere in the location. Just walking in, picking it up, and walking home. Convenience for the user, whether that's medical or recreational. You certainly don't want long distance travel if someone wants to, imbibe on the way. I'm just saying. And same with alcohol as well. Maybe that's why it's all easily convenient at convenience stores, if I will. I think that's maybe where they got their name, right?
Yeah.
But we've done things about that. Not to get off topic, but I mean we've done things to get rid of high content alcohol in local areas to help minimize problems from people that walk in and use it right next door.
Right.
And we don't have that per se happening with cannabis. At least the studies from the Los Angeles Police, University of Southern California, Florida, UCLA, and many more have had many studies that said that the crime rates are lowered in areas surrounding medical cannabis outlets, and that given this information, wouldn't it seem prudent that a community might want to have them in their area?
Given that information, yes, but it's a lot of the fear of the unknown. You don't know what you don't know, and they're afraid that if they guess it wrong, then they're stuck with it. So that's what you hear coming up out of the community. I'll give you an example of that here locally, and then we'll come back to the concentration clustering.
Well, let's do this. Hold on to that. Keep that example locally. We're going to come back after these short messages, and then we'll do just that. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis. We'll be right back. And now, your Management Minute with Doug Kirkpatrick, author of Beyond Empowerment, the Age of the Self-Managed Organization.
Like the quantum computers of the future, where one relatively small quantum machine could have more computing power than all conventional computers combined, quantum organizations will creatively and effectively deploy crowdsourcing, gamification, collective intelligence, and myriad other social technologies to let people bring their entire brains to work, as Chuck Blakeman wrote in Inc. magazine. In the participation age, which is already upon us, everybody is getting their brain back, and work once again is becoming a meaningful, integrated part of our lives, not something we put up with to make money. Powerful social technologies are finding their way into companies and organizations around the world. Open space, discovered by Harrison Owen, has been practiced in over 100,000 different meetings in 160 countries. In the future, employee participation will not be an option. It will be a necessity.
Thanks to our friends at Zukin.com, your local strain directory for the cannabis connoisseur. That's Zooken.com, Zukin.com. Find your strain.
AimBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at AimBiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to AimBiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Sweatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome back to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis, and I'm here today with Marty Campbell, City Councilman for the City of Tacoma, and we are talking about the implementation of new recreational and medicinal marijuana stores or cannabis stores in Tacoma, Washington. So thanks, Marty, for joining us. And
Still glad to be here.
Okay, well, we were just talking about concentration and so forth.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. I'll come back to my other example later. So you look up and down, and that is the balance we were talking about, is how do you decide do you let them set up next door to each other? I mean, let the market decide. You can put 10 on one block, and the guy who does the best, right? But if the idea is you want to have it dispersed throughout the city so that everyone has one in their neighborhood or has access to it, then you don't want to let them set up next to each other.
Wouldn't you want the guy that says, hey, you know what, look at all those guys are over there. They're working over there, but I see this opportunity over here. So I want to locate over there because I don't have a lot of competition.
Right.
I mean, that would give a guy the idea to say, listen, these guys are over there, and I'm going to take that market right there.
Right. I can make an argument both ways. Personally, okay. I don't think we need to set up disbursement. I think the market will
take care of itself.
People will look for their opportunities to set up and kind of corner the market.
I mean, you get the location thing.
I do. But if something's a good location with a good market, 2 or 3 in that area is not that bad. Well, I think a lot of people miss, and so we talk about them going into 6th Avenue, which tends to be more of an entertainment district. This is a product you take home. So why would I want to put my business in an area of a lot of walk-by traffic when people walking by can't really take it and use it at that moment, or they're not supposed to? So you by the fact of the way that they're constrained to use it, you become a destination store. And if I was setting up a destination store, it wouldn't be in an area where I have a lot of foot traffic. It'd be in an area where I have either a lot of access to transit or access to parking, and something where people can come to me rather than trying to capture the business going by.
So whoever's listening to this, think of the Tacoma Dome. There's really good transit. I'm just giving it a hard time. There is a lot of transit in that area.
There is. There also is a school in that area. So
is it really? I mean, right there, right next to the dome.
One of the charter schools opened up. Down there.
That's right. The charter school opened up right there on the Puyallup Path.
Yeah.
So never mind, folks.
Well, and that's going to be a future challenge. That's a whole other topic for another meeting. But some of the charter schools are opening up. They're choosing to open up in business districts. And they open up a middle business district, which means no more alcohol, no marijuana, no sensitive use can go into that business district ever again.
Aren't they grandfathered in? The
people who are there grandfathered in.
Oh, okay.
But you can never see growth. But that's a
different conversation. Actually, yeah. Yes. Well, so given that, given that we're talking about 60 stores, 30 stores, and so forth, plus another whatever. So we got 38 plus stores right now. That's a pretty big number right now. And we're only going to go, and the market's pretty much handling it right now. Right. Okay, and all of a sudden we're going to go shrink. We're going to go shrink right back down to, wouldn't you think that one of the discussions I heard in the council meeting the other night was capping the numbers that we can have in the city? We're already shown that the city can handle 60 or plus, in sales, even though they might not have been illegal. They were handling that kind of a demand. But now we're talking about regulated, legal, and so forth that are permitted in the 30s, and now we're going to say, okay, well, you can get 16. That's a significant reduction, and it does say that, oh, well, you might get high volumes in those 16, but are they... is it going to really take the market, or are people going to move to other locations, given the fact that, there's a lot of bans around the area?
Right. I think so. What I think you also saw in the 38 that we had, and a lot of the smaller ones, was one retailer will serve 4 or 5 of the medical were. So when you see the other 6 or 7 coming in, and what's already out there, I think they'll be able to absorb the market influx. That there'll be a market change as we shut down a bunch of the really small medical ones. But as I was talking with someone who owned a medical one, he says his sales are about 20% of what they were before the retail came on board. People just flat out are more comfortable going to the retail stores than they are to the medical stores, because the retail stores tend to set up like a big retailer with a big wide open storefront, a very wide open spacious place inside, and so people feel much more comfortable going in there. You're just more...
It's a different experience in a dispensary.
Right. And so the dispensaries have already lost a lot of their sales, their way down. So when someone's doing 20% of what they were doing 2-3 years ago, there's not a lot of market share to be absorbed into the new retailers coming in. So that's why I think, so right now, but you talked about a cap. So right now,
yeah, given that we're a very infant industry, if you will.
Right. So the state said we're going to give you 16. The question is at the city council level is do we say we are going to put a cap of 16, and which I think we'll lean towards, because then what can happen is when we can look at the market and say, okay, the market's ready to grow again, we'll move that up to 20. And
well, what's the process for that? Because that process can be pretty lengthy. Let's say the liquor cannabis board says, you know what, we're going to say that Tacoma, you qualify for 25, 30 more. You can go to 30, okay? Because we've got a lot of demand and so forth, and we're not meeting that demand. And let's say you can go to 30. That's 5 years from now, 10 years from now, or something like that, and it's going to take, 6-8 months to go through the planning process, the review process, a public comment periods, and all that kind of stuff to open up the licensing, or do you just say we flip a switch and it goes?
Yeah, if we do it so that the council applies the cap, then it'll be up to the council to raise the cap. We already have all the planning in place.
But that'll be a whole different council
right
way back then.
Right.
Yeah.
It could be a different council at that point. What we see is we see a liquor control board that said, okay, we're going to give you 8, and then they gave us 9. Then they called us up and said, we've just authorized you for 16. And we're going, well, were you going to call us first?
Well, that's my point.
And so that's why I think you'll see the city of Tacoma probably put in a cap.
Well, that's why I don't think you should. Actually. That's why I don't think you should, because then rather than you can adjust it and say, because they're going to have to license themselves within the city as well,
right?
Because the licensing process and the permitting process in the city can take care of that compliance issue, and you don't have to say we're going to every time that they raise the level. If someone comes up, I'm going to go over into the northeast corner of the city or the southeast corner or the center or wherever, maybe Hilltop or wherever the case may be. Because now we've licensed more, then they just have to go through the permitting process and through all of that to get it, because there is no real cap. That's just my thought process, and let the market say, well, they were right or they were wrong and on their location. Does that make sense?
It does. Ultimately, I want these stores to do very well. I want them to be very profitable, because when they're not profitable, and you see this in bars and restaurants, you saw this in some of our dispensaries, when they're not profitable stores, that's when they start cutting corners. That's when they start saying, well, what can we do? And they get more aggressive with their advertising. They
You mean they stand out in the corner and they wing a sign saying 21 down the street?
Yeah, but when your business is healthy and you don't need to over advertise it, you can pay all your employees very well, then your employees aren't stealing, and we want them to be healthy businesses, because healthy businesses are going to have less of an impact on the neighborhood.
Well, obviously,
and I know that from being a retailer is healthy businesses make good decisions.
Well, given that healthy businesses, which is a very very good comment, we're talking about average about I'd say 10 employees per location probably, and that's just a small average because we're talking about 12-hour days or whatever, and given the office staff, given the people in there, there's probably somewhere around 10. Let's just say that. So that's
at least 10. At
least 10. So if you do that from an average standpoint at 19, that's 190 employees, and I
would say we easily get over 200.
So we got 200 employees in there. That's a pretty good economic benefit for jobs, growth, getting people in that would not otherwise have an opportunity. And it is not like we're not talking about high skilled jobs here. We're not talking about somewhere where you have to go out and spend 2-3 years getting a certification or something like that.
Well, that's both true and not true. Because if you're an accountant for this organization,
you're right about that.
You're going to have to be skilled. If you're managing 10 employees, you got to be skilled.
Okay. Yes.
And this was what I want to talk about a little bit earlier, is security. The security professionals that they're hiring, you've got to be you can't be a laissez-faire security officer if you're in front of a cannabis store. And I think
my problem is that my comment, I'm sorry I made that, it was about more the people just at the people at the counter and so forth.
Right.
It doesn't take a lot of education to get there. You can get that education in a very short period of time, but you're right. The back office and then the surrounding support staff and so forth are definitely people that need qualifications in order to protect and to serve.
Right. So it's both ends. And
by the way, that's your veterans, just in case.
Well, so there is a company here in Tacoma, and I don't know if I can say their name.
Sure, go ahead. I mean, I'll ask for a sponsorship later on.
Apache 6.
No, I don't know them.
Which does security. Now, their offices are in the offices above one of the retailers.
Excellent.
And that retailer partners with them, and they are all veterans.
Excellent.
Who do security for the cannabis business. And at this store, they actually have the security guard who's a former military. He stands out in front of the store. And so you come up, and there's the door, and there's a very sharp-looking, military-looking gentleman standing out front. And actually what that's done is there used to be some general crime in that area. And that's all gone away.
Well,
when you talk about earlier about how it reduces crime in an area, that guy just standing out there and just his presence
right.
has greatly reduced the street crime in the area while he's checking the IDs and making sure and keeping the employees safe, because it's a large cast business, so it's two-end.
We're still working on that money thing, yeah.
Yeah, and I hope we got some stuff coming through on that. But and I've had a chance to go in and tour the back rooms of some of these and the high-tech security and off-site, spooling the video off-site and the cages and the security protocols they go through are very high-end.
Well, let's jump back to the process that was when we put the moratorium on for the period of time that we did. It went out and you started gathering information, determining where these sites were going to be located. And you talked a lot about how that process was and the things that you were thinking about. And it comes back to recently they got 3 different groups of people saying we got 3 different ways to go about that, whether it's the planning commission, the planning staff, or the planners saying, hey, these are the ways that we think things should happen. How do they come to 3 different conclusions on the and when it seems like they were supposed to be all working together?
Well, you have differences of opinion. I mean, some people think you should be allowed to set up stores next to each other and let the market decide.
Okay, so
others say there should be 1,000. I mean, that's the biggest difference.
Let's go through which ones are which, so we can understand where they're coming from.
The planning
commission.
Planning commission says stores should be able to set up next to each other. Let the market decide.
Okay.
Now that was on a 5-4 split vote, so it wasn't like overwhelmingly.
Oh, sure. Pierce County Council did that overwhelmingly too. We won't get into the
That's a whole nother show. About the dysfunctionality of the Pierce County Council and their Prop 1 and spending all that money that could be helping the community.
We did a program on that already, so it's all good. So let's go back to my apologies.
Please, thank you, Pierce County. We'll take those tax dollars and jobs in the city of Tacoma. As we said, 200 plus jobs. Bring them on in.
Well, and just from a digression standpoint, it really didn't. That vote didn't mean anything, and they really have no intention of lifting it because the minority of people actually are the people that said no overall. And in an off election, that it wasn't even during the regular election, which is kind of strange. But that aside, going back to what we were talking about, what were we talking about?
So the planning commission said
yes,
they should be able to set next to each other. I think the Liquor Control Board was recommending 500 feet between, and then our planning staff was saying, you should have about 1,000 between each store because they should be spread out.
So the planning commission said anywhere, right next to a door is fine. The planning staff said 1,000 versus 500.
Right, and then you've got the people who own the stores, and they came and testified, and they want 2,000 feet between them.
Yeah,
because they already got an operating store, so they don't want another one within 2,000 feet of them. I was like, the regulated monopoly. That's a good way to go with it.
Well, and actually, and I can see the people that are already in business saying, you know what, keep other business away. That's a traditional way of thinking. However, the market's already said something differently when it comes to, let's say, Home Depot. I mean, if you look at Home Depot and you look at Lowe's, they're right across the street from each other.
Yep.
And you look at McDonald's and Jack in the Box, they're right across the street from each other. You look at most other similar industries, they're right across the street from each other because competition is that. So it brings more people into the area. If they need a burger, then they go, oh, I got choices. Here we go. And you're more likely to get that because it's going to happen. Whereas same with a convenience store, same with a bottle of beer, or maybe that's a vodka or whatever you're buying, they're located in close proximity to each other just because of convenience. And right now we're in an infant industry, a very infant industry, which is people are still trying to accept and remove the stigmatism of this plant and of cannabis in overall and so forth. As it goes forward, just like alcohol and prohibition, it was pretty stigmatized. We had marches and all the women and so forth in their marches, and all the suffragettes and all the the things that were going on back in the day in the marches, and you're all what was going on. I mean, I can't give you a history lesson, but point is we have kind of the similar thing now, but it's faster due to the communication of today and the social networks. We are changing faster than we would have back then because we're communicating faster. So we're allowing this industry to mature on a much faster scale than it would have matured back in the 20s and 30s. So since we're such an infant industry and we have only 4 or 5 places now that states, if you will, that are legal, I can see that in 10 years from now, it's going to be a heck of a lot more.
Right.
And more acceptable, easier access, and so forth. So these buffers, it sounds like, can easily collapse. Does that make sense?
It does. And that's why I think what you may see us take is, and I really don't know how we're going to finally come down on this. I can see where they'd say, take the more conservative approach right now, and then you can collapse buffers down as you learn more about it, as you actually see the impacts. You see when go into a neighborhood and you see street crime drop. All of a sudden, neighborhoods are going, yeah, maybe we wouldn't mind one so much.
Well, why do we think that Tacoma is any different than UCLA, Southern Florida, or any other places?
We have a lot less sun.
Yeah, well, yeah, right. I get that part. Not today. It was actually kind of nice. But anyway.
Yeah, and I'm in the studio with you.
Yes.
Happy to be here.
But you get the picture. I mean, why these are only 3 of multiple studies that say crime goes down around these stores and so forth versus going up, which is pretty contrary to what people believe, because they believe, and we're always precautious because they think that, we've got this store with the stigmatism of the product that's in it is going to draw a bad element. And really what's happening is it's creating a better element in the neighborhood. And we need to look at those studies, our professional staff, our professional people, our elected officials, look at that and trust that these people around the country aren't just doing it. They're not finding this out on an island unto themselves, and we can utilize that information for our decision-making process instead of saying, well, we have to learn on our own. Does that make sense as well?
Oh, it absolutely makes sense, and I think that's what you see a lot of the planning commission, the planning staff, and the elected officials looking at. But just because we look and see it working somewhere else, that doesn't mean that the community is ready for that yet. And so where we see some pushback is from the community that even, they'll say, we're not UCLA, we're not Los Angeles, we're Tacoma, we're a little quieter, we're not as hectic, we're not as urban. And so they're hesitant.
Did you miss those marches a few months back?
Oh no. I saw them.
Okay.
And so and so some of it is you move it in and you let the community, the citizens, everyday Joes who aren't tuned into this, like
right.
you and I.
They have to accept it after a while.
To accept it and see with their own eyes. Because right now what they've seen with the medical providers that set up, some of them weren't doing a good job. They didn't have the best interests of the community in mind, and they created nuisances in the area that they were in. So right now that's been their experience, hasn't been the most positive with the medical ones. I believe with the retailers, because of all the constraints and security that they're under, and because they did a lot of work to get this business open, that they will be good partners in the community. It's what
Well,
I've seen with several of the stores.
I think the people that are licensed by the Liquor Cannabis Board are definitely people that are thinking about the long-term viability of the industry. They're not thinking short-term. They do know that they have good margins right now. Their margins will go down as competition increases and demand, settles in, and so on and so forth. So they know that it's a long-term bet. It's not just a short-term thing.
Right.
So, but given that tax dollars. In a second we'll take a short break. So why don't we do that right now? Take a break right now. We'll come back after these messages, and we'll talk more about the new stores coming into recreational and medicinal marijuana in Tacoma. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis. We'll be right back.
Thanks to our friends at Zukin.com, your local strain directory for the cannabis connoisseur. That's ZOOKEN.com, Zukin.com. Find your strain.
AimBiz.com brings you the life of a business website. The majority of business websites can't be found by search engines, so their owners lose customers and money. An AIM business website wins new customers on Google and Facebook. Imagine your website with great content management, an integrated blog, clean designs, and clear messages. To top it off, at aimbiz.com, you get a free website design mock-up before you ever spend a dime. For more information, go to aimbiz.com. That's AIMBIZ.com.
Sweatman Young is proud to celebrate 25 years of construction service throughout South Puget Sound, working together with you to guarantee your satisfaction and offer you a unique 2-year warranty on all work. Let Sweatman Young build your new dream home, remodel your existing home, add an additional deck, outdoor kitchen, a man cave, or even preserve your historic home. Sweatman Young provides the best construction value in South Puget Sound. Visit sweatmanyoung.com today and schedule your free consultation with Bill Sweatman, your personal professional contractor.
Ever get a traffic ticket? Had a bill you couldn't collect? Had a contract you needed advice about, such as a new insurance plan, home, or car loan? We run into these situations routinely throughout our lives. We know we need legal advice, but feel we just can't afford hiring an expensive attorney to help. Legal Shield and your legal team is now your affordable option, allowing each of us to rest assured we can quickly get the help we need for one low monthly fee. Whether it's business or personal legal advice, visit yourlegalteam.info today.
Welcome back to the 411 on 420. I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis. Thanks again for joining us on the 411 on 420. We do appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us as we talk about the business of cannabis and helping you to understand an industry that is growing across the country. Don't forget to join us. Go out and Google us. It's the best way to find us. Just Google 411 on 420. You'll see our show pop up, and just click on in, look at our podcast, and listen to all the different shows that we have been putting on. We have talked to some notable individuals, and today we are talking with one of those notable individuals in Marty Campbell, our Tacoma City Councilman, and how we are looking at implementing the retail and recreational marijuana recreational and medicinal marijuana in Tacoma moving forward as well this industry grows. Thanks again, Marty. We do appreciate you talking to us about this. Well, we left and we're talking about the stores, and we're talking about the concentrations. We're talking about, I was just thinking about tax dollars. Now, do you have the city budgeted any money for taxes right now? Because I know there's going to be some receipt of it.
In our budgeting, I think we took a very conservative guess because we didn't know exactly, and I can't remember off the top of my head when we did the biennial budget about 2 years ago what we I can't recall a couple years ago when we did it how much we said we would get. I want to say it was almost $500,000, but I'd really want to go back and double check that. We're going to have a lot better picture as we're going into our biannual budget this fall.
So we're getting a new budget coming up in for 17-18?
Yes. And so we'll have a lot better picture because we're going to have a lot more static amount. We're going to have ones that are paying more. Now, all the city gets...
We have a track record as well.
Right. But the city gets just a small percentage of the sales tax. So we got about, 9.5% sales tax, and I think we get 3% of that. Or It's relatively small. Most of it goes to the state, goes to
sales taxes
other
are
special.
sales taxes typically do that no matter where you sell, what sales tax is applied. But there is also that large excise tax at 37.5% or whatever that goes into the grow, the process, and the retail of the cannabis industry and so forth. And I believe
again, that's all state.
It's all state, but isn't all state, because some of it is shared with the local jurisdictions based upon their amount, how much they contribute. It's a proportional amount, and which goes to the fact that nobody that has a ban in any of the jurisdictions and so forth, banning the retail sale and or grow or process, can share in that revenue. It was typically going to be, across the board, and then they changed that rule to say, hey, well, if you're going to ban this stuff, you shouldn't get any of the money, which made sense.
Which was surprisingly contentious, because you had places like Pierce County going, oh no, we get our share of the money. What?
we want the money, we just don't want to sell it.
Right. And so I think they're going to continue to work that through down in Olympia, and I think you'll see it change a couple times in the next couple of years as they decide what to do with a new pot of money. They're pretty interesting down there. I think what we will see locally is we will see the 200 plus jobs we talked about. We will see the B&O tax.
Well, I think the 200 plus is only in the retail. We haven't even touched on the grow and the process, because we have established a pretty big growing operation within the city of Tacoma in some empty warehouses, both in the port and the Nally Valley.
This is correct.
I mean, and there's some significant space, and they're well protected, and they're well. You don't really know they're there or anything like that. And those individuals are 24/7 type jobs, because not only there are security professionals in that job, but there's also individuals that are constantly tending the plants and so on, and the maintenance and then the back office and all of that. So
utility taxes, utility draw.
Exactly.
What they're using there.
So we're talking a big impact all the way around, and although those utilities may be significant, they're not overwhelming.
Right.
Yes.
Right. They're not using 100. They're not using 1 million gallons of water a day.
Oh yeah, I think you're referring to this defeated methanol plant.
I'm referring to nothing.
I am referring to that. Then let's put that.
Referring to a different plant. Okay.
That's we'll get back to. But thank God for the.
Imagine what you could do on that 125 acres.
Exactly. Now, with not only that 125 acres, maybe we just grow some industrial hemp and create plastic. What a concept.
Well, there you go.
What a concept.
And it's ready for export right there.
Right there. You don't even have to go far, and you can just all that a duty-free zone. Create a duty-free zone. How good is that? So let's say we don't know. Do we take the tax dollars that you're getting in? Do they target that for specific, or is that general fund?
I believe that would come into our general fund, because it's just generated off sales tax, unless it's
a lot of people
a portion of the sales tax that's targeted there. Would really need to go back and double check on a lot of that, but I think it comes in general fund. But we want to make sure that we're particularly early on investing that money into our public safety responses, so that people have confidence a lot of times, to make sure that even because this is a bold new world, we need to build confidence out in the greater community of people who aren't familiar that this isn't going to screw everything up.
Well, I think that people also believe that there was education going to be funded with it. There was drug and alcohol abuse opportunities to be funded by the cannabis and so forth. And I don't know if that's through the state or the local area.
Well, education and all that would be the state level. So what
Right.
they're funding down there at the state level, locally, right. I'm pretty sure it's right into our general fund, because we don't run education dollars and things like that.
Okay. So, that's just making sure that people understand where their tax dollars are going, and they get a better sense of it, because there's so many times when they go, oh, we got the lotto, that's going to fund education, and they go,
Well, not anymore.
You see what I mean? It starts out one way and it ends up another way and so forth. And it really does get disturbing for individuals when they buy off in one area, and then it comes up to something different later on, and they're, well, I don't understand why it went that way. So it's good to keep everything going, keep the conversation flowing, and understand what's happening. Now, when we think about the jobs, though, when we're talking about the jobs that were created in retail, we talked about close to 200, but I think that we didn't quite go into the numbers for grow and process. That would probably, how many grow operations do you think we have in this area, or do you know? I think we're several.
I want to say
10, 20?
Yeah, right in that range. I was thinking 12 to 15,
yeah.
But I think we have applications for another 12 to 15, so up around 30 within the next year.
Okay, and that's just to grow. And what about and the process and including
Grow and process. Both.
Okay, and so we're talking about process, adding about 3 or 4 jobs, and growing is about 20 jobs when you think about round the clock kind of a thing.
I really don't know, because if you're around the clock, I mean, it depends.
Yeah.
I mean, processing can many times take more people than.
Well, it depends on
growing.
what you're processing, but given that you got to it's a garden, if you will, and we have all 3 different sizes of gardens, and that's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 is a kind of a small one, medium size is tier 2, and then the large one at 30,000 square feet of canopy is the big one, and all those are grown indoors. All of them are right here, and kind of boutique at tier 1. A little bit bigger than boutique at 10,000 square feet for the tier 2 thing, but the 30,000 square foot, that's kind of a little forest.
Yep.
And there's a lot of production out of those things, and that allows for a lot of people to be employed to do that.
Yep.
And not to mention, all the sundry businesses outside of that. So let's look at the velocity of the money, if you will. Mm-hmm. We're talking about those people that are getting those jobs in there, and they're keeping them local because most of them live locally and so forth. Then we're talking about you and I were involved in Go Local.
Yep.
Well,
and they have to keep all the money local because you can't really take it outside the state lines.
Oh, yeah.
You can't be buying from outside the state lines.
No,
in
yeah.
theory, it has to be bought locally.
Well,
I mean, it's the
product,
ultimate go local because you're not allowed to do commerce outside the state.
Well, you can get you could get your lights from somewhere else, and you can get your electrical stuff components.
Right, but that's a one-time buy, and I would suggest we have some great electrical suppliers in Alley Valley that would be happy to sell you that.
Well, exactly. But my point being is that most of the money from once it's been spent, if you will, is going to circulate right here.
Absolutely.
And if I remember correctly, wasn't it 7.5 times or something like that goes around? I mean, if I remember from our Go Local days that we're talking about that.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, the magnifying is incredible.
And so every dollar turns into like $7.
Yeah.
In the local economy. So we can talk about literally from what we're just describing right there. We're talking this small industry that is new on the forefront, so to speak, is really hitting us in the neighborhood of 1,000 to 2,000 jobs, just direct. And then we're talking about the indirect jobs that are on top of that, the support jobs. So direct inside the industry would be the grow, the process, and the retail, somewhere over 1,000 jobs, easy, with easy math. But we're talking now the indirect jobs that are being created, meaning those people that support that industry that don't really directly touch everything, but they transport, they do the light, water, and so forth, and then they're the legal and the tax and so on and so forth. That's like a 3.5 person multiplier. Mm-hmm. So we're talking for every single person out there, you get an additional 3.5 people. That's a pretty big number when you're talking about helping an economy build itself coming out of a recession that we just had.
Yes. I think what we're going to see with a lot of the cities and counties that have bans, in about 2 years we're going to come back and we'll have some really good economic impact, particularly once we go all retail, and it's going to be so much. Then at that point everything's getting tracked, right? And once we're tracking everything, and then we can create solid economic impact statements, when those come out in 2 to 3 years where we can show a trend, I think you're going to see a lot of these bans get lifted as the other communities drive through the communities, see that they're not creating the scary impacts that they were going to create, seeing that it's reducing opiate use in some communities, it's reducing
That's
street
part of that
crime.
big impact.
It's the right step right now for where we're at, for sure. And I think the benefits are going to be across a broad scale for communities from a governance point of view, the things that we're interested in, jobs, cash flow, tax revenue, crime suppression. I think we're going to see it hit on almost all these factors.
Tacoma's been ahead of the game in a lot of ways over the years. I mean, we were the first needle exchange many years ago, and people thought that we were crazy.
Yep.
Absolutely crazy, because we were going down and handing out fresh needles to the junkies and so forth, which is, not on topic here, but seriously, it was ahead of the game, but it really did clean up all the disease and so forth that was happening, because we had a huge spread of hepatitis C and AIDS and so forth that were heading from people that were caught up in an environment where they couldn't get out of, and then by that interaction with those individuals for that, that and helping them to understand and be clean about it and be more sanitary. They got trust involved, and then there were people that say, I know somebody in the government that is trying to help me, and although it seems counterintuitive, they actually sought help, and we've reduced that opportunity, reduced that number of needles and number of people that are having that problem in this community significantly as a result. Are you familiar with that?
I am. I'm very familiar with the needle exchange program, handing out over 1 million needles a year, and it's been replicated nationwide. There was a county I know we're way off topic here, but there was a county in Indiana where they went in and they banned needle exchange.
Right.
And then they had an AIDS outbreak, and now they've got like 100 people who contracted AIDS through needle sharing, and they're almost all on the state, and they're going to be on state aid for the rest of their life as age, and so it ends up costing the state because they got rid of the needle exchange because it was it wasn't cost effective.
So we pay a couple of bucks for needles to prevent millions of dollars in healthcare,
right?
Needs for the indigent individuals that would have been otherwise taken into that process.
Right. Again, very very short-sighted thinking, and I think we're going to see, coming back to topic here, a lot of ancillary benefits coming out of legalizing this market, from defunding gangs, defunding criminal operations that
the black market. You're getting rid of the
Right.
black market opportunities, and I mean even they're talking ISIS, for God's sake.
Yeah, well, I think they were.
That's another one. Right? Yeah,
this is Mexican cartels here.
No, we're talking about getting rid of it across the entire United States, and then
world peace is going to come because of this.
I think so. Everybody everybody at once, and you'll have 2 hours of sanity.
I'll take your word on it. Interesting. This is nothing that's ever been my choice or anything like that. But I had a good friend. She was going through cancer, and she talked about how this was nothing she would ever do, and in dealing with the chemo, she smoked one joint. Said it just absolutely changed her therapy and the way that she
could eat.
She could eat, she could sleep, and she said it absolutely changed everything for her, and probably why she survived chemo and cancer. And for me, that's where I said, okay, we need to legalize medical.
Right.
And Tacoma was ahead of the curve of saying, we will allow medical in our city, and we tried to set it up as businessy as we could. And I think that's why we're ahead of the game on the recreational, is because we were ahead of the game on the medical. And for myself and for other council members, we all knew people with personal stories around the stories of medical use for cannabis.
And and not to be bad, I wasn't off topic when I was talking about the needle exchange, because it was ahead of the game, and it was really the idea behind that process was the fact that a lot of people thought we were crazy, and it was counterintuitive and so forth, but yet it was intuitive. It was actually long-term thinking, which is exactly what we're doing here when you're talking about the medical marijuana, when the city of Tacoma said, you know what, we need access to the patients. By describing what you just said just now, we're getting ahead of the game and saying let's treat the individuals that need those things. It's helped, and it's already started to lower the crime rates and so forth in those areas where that's happened. And I think that we're seeing Tacoma is changing. I mean, we're growing up where people are going, you know what, we want a more sustainable living. We want more. We want a very clean city. We got involvement happening here, and I don't think it's not directly involved with that. It's all the progressive things that we do as a city, and collectively speaking, that help go towards that goal. It isn't one thing over the other. I don't think cannabis is the only one that does it, but collectively, when you're talking about the needle exchange, when you talk about the things that we're doing that are progressive in this nature, they're much better than other places. Or there's other things that we're doing that are ahead of the game as well. We do it with water. We did it with electricity. We did it with Click Network, and we did it and those are just infrastructure things.
Right.
So
I think Tacoma, it's a great city to be entrepreneurial in, just because of it's close enough to Seattle, but we're a little out of the limelight. If you want to make an impact on something in Tacoma, you can stand up and say, I want to make an impact in this, and you can. You've got a lot of great restaurants that have started out here, a lot of great companies, from the Weyerhaeusers and Frank Russell's to lots of smaller industries that started out at Tacoma because it's a great place, because the people are very open and accepting. They want to try new things. They're willing to do that, and I think that's really helped with Tacoma. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've seen cannabis and marijuana be successfully I would rate it as successfully introduced, although, we hit some speed bumps with some of the medical ones getting a little far afoot. But
well, I think that it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's always going to be bad actors. It's roping them in.
Yep.
And from what my experience is with a lot of folks in the industry who are well-intentioned and making sure that, they're looking to see an industry flourish. They're looking to see normalization instead of marginalization. They're looking for the stigmatism of cannabis use to be gone. And interestingly enough, I watched the show the other night where the FBI agent was relaxing in Washington, D.C. And it was, these are just the kinds of things that are moving the stigmatism out as society goes, oh, you know what, this is just recreational or that's medicinal and so forth. As we go down that path, I think it's going to, we're going to do nothing but benefit from the opportunities all the way around. But given everything that we're doing here and so forth, how can people still get their voices heard in the process that you're going through? The process that you're going through hasn't been resolved. You still haven't decided cap, no cap, or numbers versus no numbers, or buffer versus how many buffer. You haven't made up a decision yet. When is that going to happen, and how's that going to happen?
We'll be discussing this over the next couple of weeks at City Council. So pretty much, I think it's on the agenda for the next 2 or 3 weeks at City Council. We'll be discussing and passing some ordinances or just having hearings on the ordinances. So double check the agendas, but we should be able to come down and testify before City Council. You always send an email to anyone at City Council. Go on the city website. All of our email addresses are there. That's the quickest way you can make sure that what you're thinking about can get heard, because we're always open to accepting emails. You don't have to be somewhere at an appointed time and
I know
space.
people get kind of turned off by the process of being in a meeting because it's at X hour of the day. If you're like, say your study sessions, when they're noon, right?
Yeah, they're at noon.
And on a Tuesday.
Yep, noon on Tuesdays, and then our general business meeting is 5 o'clock on Tuesdays.
Okay, and so 5 o'clock is generally easy for most people to make, but Tuesday at noon is, I got to work, and maybe I can't get out there, get my babysitter, or take the day off, or whatever. And I don't think anybody gets really much input in a study session, do they?
In study session, we do not take public comment.
So in other words, it's just an opportunity to hear what's happening.
Right.
And are there other public people that you invite in to give you comments?
Right. Yeah, well, people come in and testify to us, or, study, study session, so we information gathering. Those are also online, so you can go online at any time and listen to our study sessions currently or past. Same with our business meeting. It's televised on TV, or you can go online and watch past ones. So you can see the public testimony we received last Tuesday, about 30 minutes of people getting up, speaking about different directions where they think we should take things.
So what kind of growth do you think we're going to have from a sales perspective once on July 1, we're going to say, okay, let's close down those individuals that have been operating without a liquor cannabis board license. And ostensibly in this conversation, we should have our city licenses up and our location buffers and opportunities available for everybody. Do we have an idea who those people are going to be, and what kind of impact this is going to have on our community, on our community for economics? I'm just saying. I
understand that the Liquor and Control Board has already decided which permits they're going to issue. Who's getting issued those permits. So we know
exactly who they're going to get to.
That's my understanding. I haven't looked at the list. I haven't wanted to look at the list because I don't want to look at the list and say, hey, I know that person. That's how you keep a distance.
The people who didn't get one already know that they didn't get one, right?
They should know, but that's not saying that they're not applying to maybe move somewhere else, or
right.
that they can still kind of be in the game with the Liquor Control Board. Or Liquor and Cannabis Board.
Now, are you letting the people that got one that are currently still operating stay in their same location? Or are you saying, well, you know what? It's nice that you're living that location, but now the rules have changed, you got to move.
That's part of the buffer. Even if they're doing medical, but they're next door to a store that is existing as retail, and we say you can't be next door to a store, they have to move. Because what they're doing is really they're a whole new business opening up, because right now they're a medical store. They're reopening as a retail store. And it is a different business. You just went from selling soda to beer.
But their license, I think, would have already had to been applied for in a specific location. If I understand the Liquor Cannabis Board rules, if you want to apply, you have to have a location already identified to do that, and they go out and vet that location to meet their standards, and then those standards may or may not already meet the cities, because it sounds like you're changing the standards in the middle of the game.
Right. Well, we're trying to do it before the game starts,
Okay.
July 1. We're doing our best to
Well-
get in under the guidelines so they have their best opportunity to locate themselves best. So
No,
we're
I
working with them, and we hope to actually have everything cleared up within the next 2 to 3 weeks. So there's still a good 6 to 8 week window.
Okay, I see. But
So-
I thought the Cannabis Board already had their LCB already had their rules in place. They just hadn't picked the new people yet. So
Right, but
are
they can't-
changing
they
their-
can't
are they changing
necess-
their,
but-
they're changing their buffers and all that, and the location opportunities. They have a number of people in their location that we already know. They've already seemed to pick those individuals, and ostensibly those individuals are located in a specific spot already because they've been given that license. And the city is going to come back and say, "Okay, we appreciate that, but you may have to move."
Right. I think that's probably a good way to wrap it up. I mean, it's like your permit is an application. It's awaiting final approval. Final approval can't be given until we know the rules of where you can and can't be. Right now, what we're looking at looks like that should be an okay location, but until the city finalizes its rules, can you absolutely get the big okey doke and move ahead? So,
So what do you
I think it's a bit of a fluid process. I wish it was cleaner, but that's when you're starting off new things. It's, unanticipated things come up. They're like, all right, quick. And so we've rushed to try to get some of these things taken care of.
Again, it's in its infancy, and so
Yep.
we're growing as we're not even out of diapers yet. We are seriously a brand new industry when it comes down to where we're going now and into the future. What do you think about when we get into that toddler stage in about 5 years? What do you think is going to happen about there?
I think it'll settle in, and I think what we'll see is a system that was much like the state liquor stores were for many years. That you'll have a handful of stores around, and that'll just be where you go to get that, and you couldn't consume on site there, and so it'll just be where you go and you pick it up and you go do it wherever you use it, and it'll just be part of fabric.
Do you have any thoughts on the corporate entrance into this market? Because one of the big fears of a lot of folks has been, well, we got these licenses going on and we got this grow operations going on and so forth. But then, those big boys out there that grow big and they're really big names and they're big corporate entities, they're looking at these profit margins and they're going, we can do better, we can get more, and we can grow bigger and all that kind of stuff. And about them jumping into that market and just basically changing the whole dynamic. Any thoughts on that?
You'll see it happen.
You think so?
Blockbuster, video stores. Used to be a whole lot of mom and pops across the nation, and they became Blockbusters and Hollywoods. But that didn't mean that independents didn't thrive right alongside them. So you'll absolutely, the hard part right now is I don't know how the state rules allow for multiple ownership of multiple stores. You are already starting to see corporatization on the production side or on the product side, for sure, particularly the ancillary products. I mean, you've seen it for years with companies.
Ancillary, yes. But currently, if you're a grower or a processor, you can only own one grow operation.
Right.
Can't own multiple. 30,000 square foot is your top, if you will, and then you can only own one process. But you're also limited from an individual and or corporate standpoint. Being, if I'm a single individual, I can only have an interest in 3 retail stores. Whether that's 1% or 100%, I can only have interest in 3 stores. So it limits that huge corporate thing coming in and say, well, you know what, I'm just going to put a chain of these down.
Currently.
See, I like how you think it currently, because that's a fear for a lot of people.
Right.
Currently.
I think when you see, particularly once it becomes legalized and normalized in a plurality of states across the United States, that's when I think you'll start to see the big corporate come in, when they can open up in 4 states at once.
Which leads to the other question, and that is cross-border transportation. Given that Canada just did their legalization medical across all the entire country of Canada and all provinces, that changes that's a big game changer up there. And here we are, we're legalizing down here in the U.S., and interestingly enough, every tribe in the entire U.S. has the opportunity to grow and or sell recreational and or medicinal marijuana. So that means, technically speaking, every single state in the entire union has legalized recreational and legalized medicinal cannabis already available, should the tribes within those borders choose to do that. Does that make sense?
Makes sense. I hadn't heard that. I know.
Yes. That's an executive order and Department of Justice memo that was signed in end of 2014.
you follow this much closer than I do, so I will. I'll trust you on that. I will give a big nod to the Puyallup tribe and what they did with buying the Seattle Cancer Care Alliance and moving that down to be the Sahelish Cancer Center in Fife, where they're actually going to convert floors into laboratories, where they're actually going to do all the studies that our wonderful Congress has banned over the years, not even allowing people to study the medical benefits of cannabis. They're going to full on embrace it and say, we're a tribal nation and we're going to do scientific research into what works and what doesn't work.
We had Aaron Stancic, Dr. Aaron Stancic from Medicine Creek Analytics out of the Puyallup tribe, who is running their testing center for cannabis testing and so forth. So we had him to talk about that. It was an excellent program a few weeks back. Should listen to it. He is an amazing individual who had a lot of insight into the testing and the entire industry. As a PhD and a doctor in this area, who's been involved for a number of years. My hat is off to him for what he's done. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
So
I've seen. I didn't catch that show, but I've seen what they're doing down there, and a big hats off to them, just standing up and saying we're going to do what's right.
Well, we do want to have them on for the cancer care units and what they're doing for the research, because the research is huge. There's not just a small amount of research that needs to be done, but that needs to be coalesced, I think is a big word, because we have in cancer world, there's this person's doing research, that person's doing research, and they're doing research, but they're not always talking to each other because they're all racing for the cure to get separately and independently to see if they can market it. And so this is given that there are so many successes with this plant having curative properties, and whether we had an individual on here, Jennifer Valley, they call her Stony Girl, down in Portland. She had over 2,000 lesions on her body, huge cutaways and massive amount of stuff, and over a few months of cannabis treatments and so forth is zero. So that was when she was told that she only had X amount of months to live because of that number of lesions and the number of tumors and so forth. We had her on talking about what's going on there, and it's absolutely stunning that she's in medical books. So when you get back to the cancer, and they don't even know why. They don't know all the curative properties. They just know that was what she was doing when it cured. So they can trace that back to that. Now she's down there doing some great work to help cancer patients and having some great successes. Saying, "Hey, I learned, I benefited, and now I'm going to give that to other people as well." So hats off to you for all your support in that area as well. We do appreciate everything you're doing, and your steady, stalwart guidance in each of those conversations. It's never been emotional. It's been very level-headed, good conversation, great moving forward. It keeps people, whether you never. I like the fact that you never really take your eye off the ball, but you also, if you have an opinion, and one way you hear all the sides, and before you make a decision, because there is that opportunity to sway that in you as an individual to say, what, I was thinking this way, but what, after all this input, I think it's maybe this is the way to go. And so I appreciate you and applaud you for that, because not everybody that gets in a seat of a position of authority and counsel is always able to do that. I walk in with a preset agenda, maybe like our Republicans in the Senate that say no.
First County Council, yeah.
Or no. They come in with the idea that we need to understand how to work together to get where we need to go, because my way or the highway is just not the way it works.
Yeah.
So
no, I'd love the honor to be there, and I've tried to bring an entrepreneurial mind and a business mind to the way that we approach some of these things, which means being open-minded and always looking at new information and making the best decision.
So I do appreciate that. Sounds to me like we're going to be seeing possibly a cap on this, the number of stores that are going out there, maybe some review processes later on. If you want to have some input on that, or you think that there's some more input that you have that hasn't already been discussed at those things, please make sure you reach out to the City of Tacoma. Marty Campbell is marty.campbell@cityoftacoma.org.
Correct.
And give him an email and let him know he doesn't just represent his district, he represents everybody within the city, as do everybody in the council. They're not just their specific representatives for their district. They do speak for everybody in the council, although I think a few members, we have 9 of them altogether.
We have 9, including the mayor, and we do represent everyone in the city. We try to bring an eye for how does this affect my district specifically, but this is a citywide issue that we're talking about. It's not a district issue. So
there's a couple of those that are at-large positions, are they not?
Three are at large. The mayor's at large, and then you have 5 districts.
Okay,
but this is a cross district.
Yes, it is. And the mayor, by the way, in this is not a strong mayor, so everybody understands that she is a vote. She's a representative of the council in every of the meetings and so forth as a ceremonial individual, and does run the meetings. But she still is a vote, just the same vote as Representative Councilman Campbell, Mello, and so forth. Everybody has a single vote, but she does carry the podium, carry the gavel.
Oh yes, she does.
She does a great job at what she does as well. So yes. I'm really proud of our council for what they're doing in this regard. Thanks again for joining us. Any other last comments on how people can reach out to you other than marty.campbell@cityoftacoma.org?
That's actually probably the best way, because then it's easy for me if I have to pass information along or get questions answered. I have the written record of it there, so I'm certain to be asking your question in your words. That way I don't misinterpret it.
Yeah.
Reach out to that. Thank you very much for having me on here today, and thank you for all the work that you do for our veterans here locally. I'm always proud to see that you keep that at the forefront of everything.
Well, thanks again. Hey, don't forget to hire a vet and think of a veteran-owned business when you are out there thinking about what you're going to have done for your property and your personal hygiene. Even we have people that do haircuts. So anyway, I'm Daryl Bowman, your business and IT professional in cannabis. Thanks for joining us on the 411 on 420. Google us and find out what we're doing and what we've done. And thanks again. We do appreciate you taking your time out of the day and getting to know more about the business of cannabis.